Quick, tell me the names of all 5 Alien Rangers. Yeah, I knew you probably couldn't do it. I'm sure there's someone in the comments trying to prove me wrong right now, but my point is that you probably don't know them because no one ever talks about the Alien Rangers, and from what it looks like, no one really cares. Why is that? Whenever people discuss their favorite Power Rangers series or just talk about the franchise in general, no one ever seems to mention the Mighty Morphin Alien Rangers. They're one of the most important series in the show's history, being the first ever costume change and new cast of 5 Rangers, and confirming the existence of other Ranger teams in the show's canon. Even the show forgets that they exist sometimes. They're the only team that went completely unmentioned in Legacy of Power, and Aurico is one of 2 Red Rangers to not reprise his role in Forever Red. But no one cares about that because everyone's more concerned with where Rocky is, even though Jason's already there wearing the Mighty Morphin suit, so but what would he even do? Just chill on the moon in his Sunday best? And anytime someone makes a set of videos talking about every Power Rangers series, I don't care if it's Linkara, the Disney Brain, Connor the Waffle, no shade to any of them, especially Connor. I love you, Connor. But no one ever makes a video for the Alien Rangers. Normally they're just thrown into season 3 or the Zeo recaps. Unless your name is Este, in which case you decide to drop the exact same video I've been working on for months, just a few days before I decide to release mine. No shade, I genuinely love Este. Just takes a lot of gusto out of this intro, I'm not gonna lie. And the Alien Rangers never get their own video. No one ever talks about the Alien Rangers. Today, we're gonna change that. Let's talk about the Mighty Morphin Alien Rangers. The first question I want to ask is, why bother, right? Who was this show made for? I know a lot of people are immediately going to say that it was an excuse to use the excess Kaku Ranger footage, but I mind you, Alien Rangers is only 10 episodes, and to be honest, most of it is original footage. This is something I'll point out as we go through each episode in the series, but footage of the actual Alien Rangers is only a very small part of the entire show. Some people say it was meant to sell more toys, but the only toys made for this show are the figures for the Alien Rangers themselves, and technically the Battleborgs. I've seen people say it acts as a bridge between Mighty Morphin and Zeo, which to me is the most logical explanation, but to that end I like to ask, why do it this way? Why turn the original team of 6 into toddlers, a concept they already did in a previous episode by the way, and call up a new group of Rangers to take their place? How the hell is that a momentous send-off to the Mighty Morphin powers and the original era of the show? Why couldn't the lead into Zeo be a 3-parter where the Rangers lose their powers, go find the Zeo crystals, and come back to the command center being blown up? To understand this, let's dive into the show and figure out what it is that informed these decisions. But we can't just start on Mighty Morphin Alien Rangers Episode 1, we first have to watch Mighty Morphin Power Rangers Season 3 Episode 33, Rangers in Reverse. This acts as the lead into Zeo. You're following me? It's Kat's birthday and the Rangers are planning a surprise to celebrate.
The only reason I know is because I helped her register for school.
This feels like a weird explanation. Kat still lives with her parents. There's no reason Rocky needed to do that. He's overstepping a boundary. We cut to the villains and find Master Vile calling for forces darker than the furthest regions of the universe. Alpha is able to detect this at the command center, but unfortunately Zordon has deactivated himself.
Calm yourself, Alpha. I am here.
Okay, that wasn't that bad. Zordon's been monitoring the situation in his private chamber, alluding to the idea of the command center having multiple chambers. This is them setting up the power chamber in Zeo, okay? I'm not even gonna talk around it. You're an adult. You understand. The Rangers have taken Kat to the local carnival for her birthday, and she's touched by the sentiment.
It's just that I feel really lucky to have friends like you.
During this time, we see Bulk and Skull accidentally giving Lieutenant Stone a parking ticket. Oh, these guys. Master Vile details his plans to use the Orb of Doom to reverse time, not too dissimilar from the Rock of Time in Season 2, Episode 39, Rangers Back in Time, in which Lord Zed enacts the exact same plot of using the magical MacGuffin of the week to turn the Rangers into children. Fun detail is that all of the child actors from that episode reprise their roles for this episode, and thusly the Alien Rangers series, including the ones that played Bulk and Skull. Obviously, Kimberly's child actress didn't return because she's been replaced by Kat. Seems obvious, but I know someone will get very mad at me in the comments comments if I don't explain every exact detail. Rito is tasked with placing the Orb of Doom at a very specific set of coordinates that conveniently is located just north of Angel Grove, near the carnival, actually. It's insane how these things just line up all the time, you know? The Rangers' fun at the carnival is interrupted by a call from Zordon, who gives them the coordinates in hopes to stop Rito. When confronting him, Rito summons Tangas and sends a handful to disrupt the carnival, splitting the Rangers in half, with Billy, Adam, and Aisha leaving to fight them in the parking lot. Tommy, Kat, and Rocky are left to stop Rito, but they're ultimately unsuccessful, as Rito places the Orb of Doom into its precise location.
No! It could be anywhere! There's really only one way to find out! Here goes! Ah!
It reverses the planet's orbit, sending us back in time, reverting everyone's age by 10 years. Zed, Rita, Goldar, and Rito grow massive to celebrate their success, and the Rangers attempt to morph.
It's morphin' time! Oh no, we can't morph!
I always love when the Mighty Morphin Rangers lose their powers. Ironically, I feel like breaking the momentum with such a pregnant pause adds to the tension that's building up in the plot. Or it's just a silly goof. This is Power Rangers, you know? The episode ends on a cliffhanger with the Child Rangers in tears, leading into Mighty Morphin Alien Rangers Episode 1, Alien Rangers of Aquitar, which is a pretty on-the-nose title. I guess it's better than Beginnings Part 1, for sure. Maybe they should have called it SPD Rangers from the Future, 2025. To celebrate this momentous occasion, being the first ever change in cast, suits, and title in the show's history, the episode begins with the intro for Mighty Morphin Power Rangers Season 3. They changed nothing. They literally changed nothing. It's the exact same intro. You're an adult. You can handle this. We do get a new intro in the next episode, and we'll talk about that once we get there. We pick up where we left off. The villains are attacking the city, and the Rangers are unable to contact Zordon. They decide it's best to find the command center on foot, with Billy leading the way. Master Vile turns the 4 giants back to normal size and teleports 3 of them out of the city, leaving Rito, commanding him to find the Rangers and destroy the power coins. The Rangers run into Bulk and Skull, who only recognize Billy, and only Billy, because the other 5 don't live here. Somehow the Orb of Doom was able to revert the entire planet to exactly as it was in 1985, but all of the Rangers remain in Angel Grove, attend the same middle school, and yet Bulk and Skull have no clue who the hell they are. Never mind the fact that the Rangers are still at the carnival when they're sent back in time, or the fact that they retain all their memories. They explain that their connection to the morphing grid allowed their minds to be unaffected by this. But where the hell are Jason, Zach, Treaty, and Kimberly? I don't expect them to have their memories or their powers or anything like that, but Kat should be in Australia, Rocky, Adam, and Aisha should live in Stone Canyon, and Tommy just shouldn't be here. And they even address this in the show.
They don't remember us. We didn't live here back then.
But they never explain it. They address that it is a thing that is weird, but never bothered to explain why it's fine. I'm actually not gonna get over this one. I don't care if I'm grown. Kat needs to be deported. The kids are interrupted by Rito and some Tangas. They're able to ward them off by doing some Home Alone ass shit. I make it sound stupid, because it is stupid, but it's very fun to watch. Bulk, Skull, Billy, and the Stone Canyon trio are taken to the police station to be picked up by an adult. Thank goodness, Billy's mom is there to get them out. It's obviously just Kat and Tommy in a trench coat, and I just have to say they got the most adorable little girl to play Kat. She may not be able to act for shit.
I was looking for my son Billy and his 3 friends. I was told that they were being held there.
But she's so stinking cute, man.
Zordon, we gotta get out there and disconnect that thing.
Goldar and Rito are then sent to follow the Rangers to the command center with what TikTok would call a boom machine and plans to blow it up. We then cut to Zordon and Alpha in the command center that seems to be without power, adding even more tension to the plot. How will the Rangers save the day without their trusted companions? It turns out on this exact date 10 years ago, they were in the middle of spring cleaning, and Alpha had unplugged the command center's center console to make room for the vacuum.
All this time, our power outage has been due not to a sinister force, but to a simple household appliance.
So mind you, this time reversion was not strong enough to bring Trini back home from the peace conference, but was enough to unplug a vacuum. The command center is canonically tied to the morphing grid, and I assume that's why Zordon and Alpha retain their memories. I've also seen people speculate that the 6 Rangers remain in Angel Grove for the same reason they retain their memories, being their connection to the morphing grid. So either this vacuum exists beyond the boundaries of space-time on a plane that's unreachable by the morphing grid, or Alpha's just straight up fucking around too much. Anyways, they're able to teleport the Rangers into the command center, and Zordon refuses to give them access to their powers, stating that if anything were to happen to the 6 of them, it would interrupt the flow of time, having a domino effect in the future. Mind you, Aisha shouldn't even be in Angel Grove as it is, but in just 10 episodes, they decide it's fine to just leave her in Africa. Alpha brings up that the Alien Rangers might be willing to defend the planet in the meantime, prompting Zordon to transmit a message requesting their aid, and they begin to appear on the viewing globe. The episode ends on another cliffhanger, as Rito and Goldar light a fuse that just so happens to be 12 feet long. I promise you, this plan could have went so smoothly if they just clipped a few inches off of that fuse. That is the definition of self-sabotage. In part 2, Delphine introduces herself as the leader of the Alien Rangers. Zordon asks if they can defend Earth from Master Vile, while the Child Rangers try to get things back to normal. They're concerned if there's any water on Earth, as Aquitians are a race of fish aliens that need an abundance to survive. Hence the name, you know, Aquitar, Aqua, Water. You're an adult, I don't need to talk down to you. The Child Rangers wonder if the Aquitians have their own Zords, and Cestro, the Blue Ranger and tech expert of the group, informs the kids that the Aquitians pilot the Battleborgs, which were gifted to them by Ninjor a millennium ago. For those of you who don't know, Mighty Morphin only adapted the Zord footage from Ninja Sentai Kaku Ranger in Season 3. The rest is American footage using the Core 5 suits from Jew Ranger and the 6th Ranger suit from Dai Ranger, which are the 2 Sentai previous to Kaku Ranger. What's interesting is that the first Megazord for the Mighty Morphin team is actually the 3rd and final Megazord for the Kaku Rangers. The Shogun Zord was actually their first mecha in the Sentai, but it's the 2nd Megazord to appear in Mighty Morphin Power Rangers. A lot of the fandom claims that Mighty Morphin Season 3 adapted the Zord footage backwards, but that's false when you consider the placement of the Battleborgs. They're introduced in this series with the Alien Rangers, which is technically at the tail end of Mighty Morphin Power Rangers Season 3. But the Battleborgs appear as the 2nd set of robots in Kaku Ranger, meaning that Power Rangers did not adapt the Zord footage backwards. Rather, they adapted the last third first, the first third second, and the second third last. Yeah, I do talk to women. Also, Zordon gives them access to the Shogun Zords. Obviously, for the footage reasons I just explained here, should I remind you that they use the last third first, the first third second, and the second third last. But the in-universe show time travel explanation is... I'll just assume it's because of the fucking morphing grid or something. The aliens sign off from the viewing globe, and the Rangers detect the explosive device planted outside of the command center. They decide it's best to have Alpha go outside and defuse it, as there could always be an Alpha 6 to replace him if something were to happen.
Yo, what am I, invisible?
Thank God nothing happened. Aisha tells him to be careful and lets Alpha know that they love him.
Be careful, we love you.
Alpha gifts Billy a mobile viewing globe that will act as a new communicator and teleports the Rangers out of the base to meet the Aquitians at Angel Grove Beach.
I love you too, Rangers.
After this, Alpha is visibly sweating as he attempts to defuse the bomb.
Talk about pressure.
Thankfully, he is successful and the command center is safe. For now. Master Vile detects the Alien Rangers' arrival to Earth and sends Rito and Goldar to bother the children as they're coming in. The kids are able to ward them off by throwing a series of pool floaties at them. Thankfully, the Alien Rangers teleport in front of the ocean and use their alien water powers to defeat Rito and Goldar. Tommy introduces his team to the Alien Rangers, and Delphine, the White Ranger and leader, does the same. As we're introduced to Aurico, the Red Ranger and second in command, Cestro, the Blue Ranger and tech whiz, not too dissimilar from Billy, Tidus, the Yellow Ranger, and Corcus, the Black Ranger. Those two really don't have personalities. This is one of the main reasons I think no one ever really talks about the Alien Rangers as characters, because the show Mighty Morphin Alien Rangers focuses more on the kids than they do the actual Alien Rangers, to be honest. Outside of those one-word descriptions I just gave you, we don't find out anything else about these Alien Rangers. And we only really know these things because Cestro is the one that's there to talk to Billy about science and technology, Aurico gives commands during battles because of Sentai footage, and Delphine is the one that ends up talking for everyone else in almost every scene, plus she's the one that gets to say it's morphing time.
It's morphing time!
And she really knows how to hit the it's morphing time too. I don't know if they trained the actress on how to do it before she came in, or if she's just genuinely excited to be here, but I really appreciate the enthusiasm. There is one episode where we see Tidus, the Yellow Ranger, force Cestro to go out on the town and get into some trouble, which is a relationship that's pretty similar to their Sentai counterparts. I imagine that if this was a full-length 30 to 40 episode season, we probably would have gotten a lot more comedic moments of these two getting into trouble. So I guess if you really wanted to, you could argue that Tidus is that slacker, lax goofball of the team. There are some other moments in the show that point to this too. So he's kind of like those other male yellows like Dustin or Chip. It's weird to think that he started this trend, but like, I guess that's true. If you follow me on Twitter, you may have noticed that a while back I tweeted out that Corcus was goated, and that's because Corcus doesn't fucking talk. He has a handful of lines, but most of the time, if he says anything, it's typically during fight scenes when it's his turn to beat some ass.
I will avenge my companions. No! You will not get away with this! Take this, arachnid fiend!
The same thing happens in almost every single one of those clips. He declares that he is going to solo the monster and then proceeds to do so. And while he's not always successful, he still makes an honest attempt, and for that reason, Corcus is goated. So once the two teams of Rangers are introduced to each other, the Alien Rangers decide to, like, touch them. This scene is really weird to watch because they're kids. Master Vile sends out a legion of monsters to take on the Alien Rangers for their first outing of Sentai footage, but before that we see Billy and Alpha giving the Alien Rangers a rundown on how to pilot the Shogun Megazord. And just because I find the notes that Billy leaves out for the Alien Rangers to be really funny, I decided that I want to read it aloud for you guys. The Zord consists of 5 robotic units, each serving a purpose for the good of the whole. When combined, the 5 units become 1 unit, able to combat most formidable opponents, especially during sweeps weeks. That's very funny, because for those of you who don't know, Nielsen is like a broadcast company that collects data on television. That's how they get like ratings numbers and stuff. I chuckled at this personally because I use Nielsen data all the time for what I do for work, but that's a really silly meta line. It's a funny one. The first unit is a monkey. Yes, a monkey. The second unit is a bird. It's house trained. Thank goodness. The third unit is a bear. It's one of the few bears that in existence which has eluded Ted Nugent. We're gonna ignore that joke. The fourth unit is a wolf. Cunning, rapid, and randy. We will talk about this one. I do like that Billy is the one describing all the Zords, and like he talks smack about the rest of the Zords, which is funny in and of itself. But when he gets to his own Zord, the wolf, he's like, yeah, cunning, rapid, randy, like, you know, that's a fun detail. The fifth is a frog. If it gets too hot, it dries up and croaks. It also has freaky big feet and a flaming fish sword. Why a fish? Only Ninjor knows for sure. So in conclusion, try to read the manuals in the Zord's glove compartment. Good luck, and thanks for flying. Unironically, I think this is hilarious. We then see the Alien Rangers morph for the first time.
Red Aquitar Ranger power! Rangers on Aquitar, full power!
They destroy the 5 monsters sent by Master Vile, and he leaves after the defeat, ashamed of what's happened. And this is the last time we see him in the show until Power Rangers in Space. And the episode ends on the Rangers doing the classic hands in the center jump and freeze frame. Now, because I'm trying to dispel rumors of this season only existing for the sole purpose of using more Sentai footage, I figured I'd keep a running tally of the amount of Kaku Ranger footage used in each episode. And in the past 2 parts, there is a total of 2 minutes and 23 seconds of Sentai footage used, meaning that a little over 5% of the first 2 episodes of this 10 episode series is Sentai footage. Okay, it might be a little more as we go further on, who knows. Most of the footage being used is Zord footage that they probably could have used anyways without introducing the Alien Rangers, to be honest. And mind you, the Aquitions control their Zords telepathically, so there's all these shots interspersed during the Zord fights with the Alien Rangers acting out the movements of the Battleborgs. This was not a thing in the Sentai, and all this cutting in between the two really messes up the cohesiveness of each scene, with just how different the quality and color grading is between the 2 film teams. And again, as I said, those little movements are all American footage that they did not have to film. They're going out of their way to use less Sentai footage and film more of their own. Like I said, we will check in at the end of each episode to see how much Kaku Ranger footage is being used, but let me specify a few things. I'm counting all of the Kaku Ranger footage. So anytime it cuts out of Sentai footage and then into American footage and then back into Sentai footage, I'm not gonna count the little chunks of American footage that are spliced in between that, even if it is just like a few milliseconds. I'm also not counting these shots of Sentai footage laid over the viewing globe, because in my mind, the viewing globe is still American footage, even if they're just cutting back to the exact same clip every time with different Sentai footage overlaid onto it. For all intents and purposes, the American film crew still had to set up a tripod in front of this dish plate at some point in order to have this on our screens right now, so I'm counting it as American footage. With that out of the way, we move on to episode 3, Climb Every Fountain, which begins with the actual intro for the Mighty Morphin Alien Rangers. It sounds exactly like the intro from Mighty Morphin Power Rangers. You may notice that the child actors are now credited alongside their respective Rangers in the intro, and you'll also see that the Alien Rangers are here. See? Right there. Yeah, the actors for the Alien Rangers aren't even credited in their own series. Like I said, the show focuses more on the child actors anyways, so it makes sense for them to get top bill, but it's insane that the show doesn't even credit the characters that it's named after. We find Billy working with Cestro to develop a machine that will turn the Rangers back to normal. They're unable to finish it because Billy has to go to school and have lounge. Listen, I gotta throw in one joke that dates the video, okay? It's fun for me. We cut to Zed and Rita plotting to destroy the power coins to prevent the Rangers from retrieving their powers. And we cut back to all of the Rangers attending Angel Grove Elementary. Goldar and Rito attack the bus the Rangers are taking home, and Tommy comes up with a plan to throw shit at them, which seems to be an effective strategy considering how well that worked with the pool floaties. You know, I really praised that first episode with all the cool stunt work they did with the kids. You know, that Home Alone ass shit. It makes me sad they didn't do more of that. Now the kids just make a mess and they call it a day, and that's how they foiled the big plan of the week. More importantly though, the Dare logo makes an appearance. That's pretty sweet. Billy and Adam complete the machine that will turn the Rangers back to normal, but it needs the power coins to, well, power it. Goldar and Rito overhear this and follow the two children on their way to meet up with the other Rangers. While this is happening, the Alien Rangers are at the base suffering from dehydration due to the lack of Aquitian grade water on Earth. Zordon and Alpha decide it's best to teleport them to a nearby fountain to rehydrate, drawing a crowd around the Alien Rangers as they do this, because the rehydration process could not be more extra than it already is. They literally float in the air and hover over water. With that being said, I'd like to invite you to take a sip of water. I'd hate to see you fail your next piss check. Billy inserts the power coins into the machine and it's able to turn him back into a teenager. Unfortunately, Goldar and Rito show up before the rest of the Rangers are able to use it. They steal the machine with the power coins inside, prompting Zed and Rita to teleport down and destroy the power coins. This has huge implications for the timeline, as the destruction of the power coins in the past means that the Rangers would have never been able to morph in the 90s and defend Angel Grove. The only power coin that would exist now is the Green Rangers, which was in the possession of Rita when we found it, which would lead to a vastly different timeline similar to maybe the events of Shattered Grid, and the planet would be left defenseless and enslaved to the United Alliance of Evil. Thankfully, the show doesn't give a shit, so we're not going to act like we do either. After destroying the power coins, Zed and Rita turn the machine into a monster. Zordon and Alpha are able to teleport the Rangers out of there just in time, and Billy goes to warn the Alien Rangers about what's happening, as they're unable to reach them during the rehydration process. Tommy offers to go with Billy.
I'm coming with you, Billy.
I'm telling you to stay here for your own good.
I like this scene because it's not only an example of Tommy retaining his bravery even as a kid, but this fist bump makes it feel like these two are still bros, even if bro is 12. Billy arrives at the fountain and warns the Aquitians.
There's a monster headed this way!
Oh, there you are!
Correction! The monster's here!
That's actually funny. I laughed at that. I'm not gonna lie. I low-key like Alien Rangers. This is fun. I'm having fun, man. The Aquitians morph, and there's an American fight scene with the Tangas at the fountain, and it's a really well-done fight scene at that. There's this moment with Tidus flexing, adding credence to my belief that he's the team silly guy. Anyways, they inevitably flip into some Sentai footage and destroy the monster of the week, receiving a gold star from the mayor for their bravery now that they're public figures since they outed themselves at the fountain. In total, there's another minute and 19 seconds of Sentai footage in this episode, bringing us to a new total of 3 minutes and 42 seconds of Kaku Ranger footage used. And honestly, it would be a lot higher if they didn't keep cutting back and forth to the Alien Rangers doing that stupid shit in Zord fights. These cuts are so quick, it makes it really hard to count, and I just wish they would stop doing it. Like I said, it doesn't save them any time doing this. I guess it pads out the episode, but there's still action scenes that require choreography. I feel like it would have saved them more time to just randomly cut to one of the Alien Rangers chilling at the command center. Maybe we could actually learn something about them, or have one of them tell a joke, for God's sake. Honestly, this is fine. I don't think I would be this annoyed if I didn't dedicate myself to counting every second of Sentai footage used in the show. Most of the fighting in this episode is American footage, and it's great American footage, but I feel like if the show was really an excuse to dump Kaku Ranger footage that they just had lying around, they're doing a terrible job at it, considering they're only averaging about a minute of Sentai footage per episode, and they're deciding to film even more footage on top of it. In episode 4, The Alien Trap, we find Tommy and Kat alone with a machine the Rangers are developing to filter Earth water to be more similar to Aquitian water. An old lady's there, unable to mind her business. I've thought about this for a while, and I just now think this gave me the confidence to say it. Retired people have too much damn time on their hands. She's sitting on a park bench with a full bag of groceries, getting upset about two well-mannered kids enjoying the outdoors. You'd never see a person in their 20s doing this shit. We're too busy going to work and trying not to kill ourselves. I have bills to pay. I can't just let a fresh bag of groceries rot in the sun for no reason. Thankfully, Billy intervenes.
Hey! Didn't I tell you kids not to play with my science experiment?
Billy and Cestro work on the machine while the other Aquitians discover ice cream. We find Bulk and Skull fishing, and the aliens are disturbed by this considering they're, well, fish. Pun not intended, but I find these fish out of water jokes really amusing. Watching Tidus eat a popsicle like corn on the cob is peak cinema to me. Rito and Goldar and two monsters of the week are sent to stop the Alien Rangers from rehydrating, rendering the filter machine useless, and trap the Alien Rangers in a force field, forcing them to consume even more of the polluted water. The kids and Billy are able to trick the monsters by engaging with them in a game of tag. Trust me, it actually works, allowing them to steal the machine used to trap the Aquitians in the force field, thusly freeing them and allowing them to take care of the monster of the week and use more Sentai footage, in which they use approximately 2 minutes and 5 seconds, reaching a all-time high thus far, bringing us to now 5 minutes and 47 seconds now. Unfortunately, the episode ends with the Aquitians having to return to Aquitar as they're unable to rehydrate safely on Earth. And episode 5, Attack of the 6-Foot Bulk, shows the kids having fun during a field trip to the local water park with Billy chaperoning. Rita and Zed witness Bulk causing mischief around the park and decide to turn him into a monster called Brat Boy. Thing of note here, the monster of the week is actually voiced by the actor who plays Teenage Bulk, and this is actually the first episode in the franchise to be directed by Paul Schreier as well. And it's honestly one of the most fun episodes in the entire miniseries. The fight scene when the Alien Rangers do return to Earth is a perfect example of that. Them running around the park, playing in the water, cracking jokes, and messing with Brat Boy. It's all American footage and it's done incredibly well. And since we're on the topic, there is a whole 45 seconds of Kaku Ranger footage here, with our new total being 6 minutes and 35 seconds. Paul Schreier also makes a brief appearance at the end of the episode when Bulk is turned back to normal. His physical form must not be immediately affected by the time warp or something after being possessed by Rita and Zed's magic. Or more likely, he was just on set directing and decided to throw himself in there for funsies. During all of this, Goldar and Rito were sent to set up another boom machine, this time through the underground tunnels connected to the command center. This process will take them 5 episodes. This episode ends with the Child Rangers gaslighting Bulk into believing this never happened, and they're quickly teleported back to the command center as Zordon has an urgent message for them. He explains that the only thing powerful enough to bring the planet back to normal is the Zeo Crystal, which they broke into pieces and scattered across the planet in different time periods at the end of the Master Vial and Metallic Armor 3-parter. In said 3-parter, we find Slippery Shark attending a party. I'm so sorry. And in the final moments of the episode, Zordon sends the 5 Child Rangers onto the Zeo Quest.
Then let the Zeo Quest begin.
Why is Rocky stanced up here? He's always doing that. Not gonna lie, that's kind of in character for Rocky. Before we continue, I wanted to remind you that you can support the channel on Patreon, where you can find videos like this. And I also wanted to tell you about our t-shirts. If you're a fan of Super Sentai, you may have seen some of the Boom Boonger videos on the channel. But basically, I wanted to make t-shirts around the word Bakuage, which is thrown around a lot in that TV series. And so I teamed up with Rinky Tori to create Boom Boonger inspired t-shirts, obviously around the word Bakuage, but also some other ones. And this is the first merch drop on the channel. that we've ever really done, and I really just wanted to say thank you so much for the support. It really does mean a lot to me from what we have seen thus far. I do want to also remind you that this is a limited release, so you do have until March 19th to pre-order / purchase any of the shirts if you're interested. Not to rush you, but just a gentle reminder that if you wanted shirts, the clock is ticking. All right, so now that that's out of the way, I wanted to take a break during this intermission to talk about the Zeo serial. This is a set of 32 promos that aired during commercial breaks throughout Mighty Morphin Power Rangers Season 3 and Alien Rangers, of course, that are meant to tease that something is coming. In total, they're about 18 minutes when put all together, and it starts with Rita and Zed being afraid of something they see coming to Earth through their telescope. Meanwhile, 2 scientists from Angel Grove University revealed that they discovered an armada of alien ships coming towards Earth. Bulk and Skull hear about this on the news and make a plan to capture one of the aliens, because of course they would, and they return to the juice bar to tell Ernie after an encounter with the aliens, and Ernie doesn't believe them.
We saw him, Ernie. Aliens from outer space. Alien.
And honestly, that's the most noteworthy thing in this entire series, because how the fuck does Ernie not know that aliens exist at this point in the show? The government enacts a state of emergency as the Power Rangers are nowhere to be found, and we find the Armada is being commanded by a Machine King Rita and Zed call Mondo, who they believe to be so strong that they make plans to leave Earth. This story is told throughout 32 shorts, and every one ends on a sequence that slowly reveals more of itself to us with the progression of each one, teasing that something is coming. The reason I wanted to mention this is because this shows that they really were prepping the audience for Zeo all the way back when the very first promo aired during the 3rd episode of Mighty Morphin Power Rangers Season 3. And to my knowledge, the Alien Rangers did not have this big of an ad campaign that was as nearly as theatrical, and that makes it evident that the Alien Rangers were potentially just an afterthought, and were just intended to hold us over before dropping the real big thing they were teasing up. I really feel like this ad campaign took away any sort of hype or momentum around Alien Rangers during its run. Imagine being a kid in the 90s trying to watch the new Power Rangers series, and every time a new episode airs, they tease up that an even bigger, better, more new, spectacular Power Rangers series is just around the corner. Because mind you, the promos also aired during all of the episodes of Alien Rangers, and it completely takes the attention away from them and puts the focus onto Zeo, which was probably the intention. I mean, think about it. Changing up a show like Power Rangers is a dangerous thing, especially during these early years. There's a chance that kids would have hated the Alien Rangers and dropped the series entirely, especially when you're airing competitive TV shows like VR Troopers and Masked Rider. It's very important to keep hype and momentum for PR going to keep people around, and especially when you have such major shakeups that might be controversial. But I do think that this is a big reason that the culture forgets about the Alien Rangers so often. It adds credence to the school of thought that this show was only created for the sole purpose of running the clock on Mighty Morphin for Zeo. Another point I wanted to make during this intermission is how a lot of people think that Alien Rangers was only made to sell more toys, but the only toys created for this show are the figures for the Core 5 Alien Rangers and the Battleborgs, both of which are branded with the normal MMPR logo. And that's it. There's no blasters, sword, changers, flip head, or space aliens. This is one of the smallest toy lines in the show's history, although they did make figures for all the Rangers and we got all the Zords, so that is more than you could say for something like Cosmic Fury. I feel like if toys were really a priority here, they would have made more, though I do wonder if that's due to a lack of sales or audience interest than it is Bandai just not wanting to make them. In terms of selling home media, before Shout Factory released box sets for every single Power Ranger series, this was the only way to watch any sort of content from Mighty Morphin Alien Rangers, and that was through purchasing this VHS, and they're not even in the VHS tape. It's a supercut following the Child Ranger's journeys of recovering the Zeo subcrystals, and the only time the Equations are ever seen in this VHS tape is when they send the children back in time and when the children come back to the command center. They don't even morph here, meaning that for a long time, the only purchasable home media that was created for Mighty Morphin Alien Rangers doesn't even have the Mighty Morphin Alien Rangers in it. Just aliens for like maybe 30 seconds. So of course I bought it to have it playing in the background, and I thought about buying all of the toys from the Alien Rangers series from 1995, you know, for the bit and because there's so few of them. But then I discovered they're so damn expensive. This tells me one of two things. Either no one bought this stuff back in the day, or they just didn't make a ton of these, because there's no reason that Tidus should be $500 by himself. I did end up buying the Battleborgs for Corcus on eBay, because, you know, Corcus goated. And the seller also had Delphine, so I figured I would pick her up too, because, like, she's the leader and all that. Plus, Ninja Black is my favorite Sentai character of all time. I don't know how many of you know this, but he's actually my profile picture. I just slapped my face over him. Speaking of which, the final thing I thought we should talk about during this intermission is Ninja Sentai Kaku Ranger. Mostly because I know a lot of you would be mad if I didn't bring it up. We're still adding up how much Sentai footage is used in the show, so we're not going to talk about that quite yet. But Kaku Ranger is the show that Alien Rangers and the Zord fights from Season 3 get their costumes and footage from. And just to state the obvious, there are no aliens in that show. The Kaku Rangers are a team of young ninjas that fight ancient Japanese yokai. I would talk more about it now, but we've already reviewed the entire series in another video. Not to do that whole YouTuber thing, but I'll link it at the end of this one if you're interested. It's only about like 20 minutes. It's not another multi-hour long one, so don't worry. Episode 6, What Are You Thinking, begins with a ceremony of the Alien Rangers throwing the children into a portal that will send them through space-time in order to retrieve the Zeo crystals. After which, Cestro finds himself feeling especially dehydrated. Billy comes up with the idea to take the Aquitians to the aquarium, as they're able to communicate with fish, hoping that they will help find an appropriate water source for the aliens, which they're successful in doing. During this, we find Bulk and Skull in detention, debating whether or not the Alien Rangers could defeat Darth Vader.
You dimwit! Darth Vader's just pretend. The Alien Rangers are real.
They also make plans to visit the aquarium after school to do research for a science project. Once there, they find the Alien Rangers and engage in some good old-fashioned bigotry.
Take us to your leader. Yeah, beam us up.
Cestro morphs to avoid the hate speech and ends up in a quarry talking to himself alone in search of the water source the fish at the aquarium described to him. I have so many questions about this. For instance, why didn't the other Alien Rangers go with him? Surely they could use a refresher too. Why is he talking to himself so much?
This must be the core.
Why is he nowhere near a body of water? And why did he bother to morph just now when no one is around? Thankfully, all of these questions are answered when a witch monster smacks Cestro into some Kaku Ranger footage. And honestly, as a grown man, that's all the explanation I need. Thankfully, the other aliens arrive in time for her to grow giant, and this entire sequence takes up 3 minutes and 9 seconds, which is a new total of 9 minutes and 44 seconds of Sentai footage. Meanwhile, Goldar leaves a trail of popcorn in the tunnels leading to the command center, but Rito eats it all. And Rocky is sent to Mexico, or Spain. It's a Spanish-speaking country with a volcano. Here's a list, it could really be any one of these. He finds a boy that tells him about a legendary crystal inside of an active volcano that resides outside of his village. Rocky enters the unstable volcano and reaches out for the crystal, inches away from falling into the lava below. Just as it seems as the volcano is about to erupt, he grabs the Zeo crystal and it enshrouds him in a blue light. The village celebrates Rocky upon exiting, saying that the removal of the crystal stopped it from erupting and destroying their village. Rocky says goodbye to the child from earlier, who tells him his name is Pablo de Santos, the same name as his grandfather. He raises a Zeo crystal over his head and it releases a triangle that teleports Rocky back to the command center. Bringing us to episode 7, Along Came a Spider. Cestro and Tidus are helping Billy prepare a machine that they plan to power with the Zeo crystals, but they need an extra part, prompting Billy to request one from a scientist at Angel Grove University. Before he leaves to get it, he tells Tidus and Cestro not to go anywhere.
Try to stay out of trouble.
Who? Us?
Billy,
William, that's quite an ambitious project you've undertaken.
I mean, William retrieves the part from Dr. Kender, who was actually in the Zeo serial. They also launch a rocket.
Launch!
It feels like such a momentous thing, but there's no build up to this whatsoever. It just kind of happens out of nowhere in the episode. I really feel like they just needed an excuse to waste time. While Billy was away, Tidus and Cestro find themselves rehydrating at a car wash. Zed sent a handful of Tangas to attack them, but they're never even able to lay a finger on the aliens as they end up getting thrown around in the car wash before reaching them. And it's actually pretty funny. Billy returns to his house. I should question where his parents are and why they're allowing this 25-year-old man to stay in their son's room. I imagine they're probably just busy looking for their lost child, I guess. But while there, Billy is kidnapped by a spider monster that the aliens must defeat using approximately 2 minutes and 26 seconds of Sentai footage, bringing us to 12 minutes and 10 seconds. Goldar and Rito are still in the tunnels, attempting to create a map where they've been.
The command center is here. Oh, take that down,
While all of this is happening, we find that Adam has arrived at the Diamond Mountains in Korea. He's told to find a wise man that lives inside of a waterfall, and we cut to this old man following him outside of a bush. This is something I've been dreading talking about with this series. While there is a part of me that really appreciates the writers attempting to dive into each of the Rangers' cultural backgrounds, going to Korea and Mexico, Africa and Australia in later episodes, it would be irresponsible of me not to comment on the show's depictions of these places and cultures. We'll talk about it more in Tommy's episode as well, because JDF's just not a Native American actor, and I feel that episode as a whole is one of the most insensitive portrayals of indigenous culture I've ever seen on television. The old man Adam is looking for in this episode is named Master Kyogi, and just to be blunt about it, I believe he falls into the stereotype of the magical Asian. TV Tropes states that the magical Asian exists to dispense lessons to typically a Caucasian character using the wisdom of his people. He will usually be a martial arts master, a practitioner of traditional Asian medicine, or a sage of some Eastern religion. If he's not explicitly supernatural, he will often be highly skilled in his art, and it will appear superhuman. An old Asian knowledgeable with a thick accent and droopy mustache and antiquity dress can seem cliched and clueless, but tends to be at least well-intended. I don't have the personal experience to comment on how harmful these stereotypes can be, and while I'm not of the offended parties, I would imagine these depictions are problematic. Thus, I will tread lightly as we move forward and poke fun and make jokes about these tropes. And I hope to not offend anyone, genuinely. But I would like to apologize in advance if I do somehow in the process. And I encourage people of these specific cultural backgrounds to use their voice in the comments to discuss if you feel so inclined. Or even better yet, make your own video on the topic. If anyone wants to, feel free to message me on social media and I'll pin it in the video description or the comments, whatever YouTube will let me do. I thought about reaching out to people in the Toku community that identify as Asian, Latinx, Native American, etc. But I don't feel it's appropriate to ask my POC friends to explain racial dynamics for our entertainment. But as I said, I'm not demanding you say anything. But if you feel so inclined to speak on the topic, I hope to do whatever I can to help lift your voice and make you feel heard, seen, and valid, because that's important to me. Hey, I just wanted to film this real quick while I was editing. That's why things look the way they do. I know I spend a lot of time on this point, and a lot of you are going to call me a woke libtard. That's fine. Go ahead. But I wanted to point out how important Power Rangers is for, like, diversity in terms of having Black or Asian superheroes on your television screens, or even female superheroes on your television screens. Like, back in the day, that really wasn't as much of a thing as it is now. So, like, the types of boundaries Power Rangers pushed at the time is very important. And I feel like I'm doing a lot of criticizing in terms of, like, forced, whatever, cultural integration, or however you want to put it. I'm not in a super analytic mood. I just wanted to point out real quick how, like, Power Rangers is very important for what it's done in terms of, like, having a diverse cast of superheroes and role models for children to look up to. And I genuinely think it's important to mention that as well when we're talking about this discussion, because Power Rangers is so important for diversity. Like I said, I would love to see someone make a video on this somewhere down the line. I think it'd be awesome. That being said, Master Kyogi's fuck ass thinks he's funny.
You ribbit, ribbit!
Most of the episode is just him messing with Adam, but eventually he leads him to a waterfall where Adam finds the crystal emitting green energy that projects a rectangle, teleporting him back to the command center with Rocky and William.
He shoots. He scores. All right.
That's 2 down, 3 to go.
In episode 8, Sowing the Seeds of Evil, Tommy is teleported to a Native American village, and Kat is finally sent back to Australia.
Am I home?
While there, Tommy is told to follow a bird, because of course. Jesus Christ, man. His name is David Trueheart, and he is very much an example of a magical Native American stereotype, defined as often having magical powers coming from innate spirituality or closeness to nature that civilized races don't have.
Listen to the birds. Hear the stream talking to you.
Usually crossing a line from mere awe and respect for nature to stereotypical oversimplified nature worship. He tells Tommy to trust his intuition to find the crystal and shows him some Native American wall paintings. It is neat that one of them is Zeo Ranger 5, I guess. That is kind of nice foreshadowing. He presents Tommy with 3 pre-rolls and tells him again to just trust himself and pick whichever one his heart tells him to, because if he picks the other 2, the world will end or something like that. Thankfully, young Oliver is able to focus and choose the right one, which enshrouds him in a blast of red energy. But before he's able to teleport back to the command center, Tommy is given half of an arrowhead, a plotline that will be wrapped up in Power Rangers Zeo, as Tommy finds his long-lost Native American brother, David Trueheart, played by JDF's real-life brother, who also is not Native American. He has the other half of the arrowhead and helps teach Tommy to clear his mind so he could properly pilot the red Battlezord. Kat, on the other hand, runs into a magical Australian girl.
Mommy. I'm going to be you.
That's not a real thing. I just don't know why Kathleen Sutherland is here. Twice, in fact. Teenage Kat offers to give child Kat a ride to the Zeo Crystal because she just knows where that is, apparently, when old Kat approaches the car hitching for a ride like a freeloader. Teenage Kat refuses to help homeless Kat because she hates poor people, but child Kat decides to put the entire stake of the universe on the line to walk this old lady back to her house. While there, the oldest Kat hands youngest Kat a box containing a Zeo Crystal radiating pink light, using a circle to teleport her back to the command center.
Hey guys, I got my Zeo Crystal.
I told y'all she was just adorable. Anyways, yeah, the Alien Rangers. Cestro and Billy are working on a different machine that actually works. While they're doing that, Cestro informs Billy about the Alien Rangers' main antagonist on Aquitar named Hydrohog. Of course, Zed sends a squadron of Tangas to destroy this machine, prompting Cestro to morph and fight them off. Unfortunately, the Tangas are successful in destroying it, and Zed decides to double down on ruining their day by attempting to teleport Hydrohog to Earth. Fortunately, Zordon and Alpha are able to block Hydrohog from coming in. There is 0 minutes of Sentai footage in this episode. Some of y'all probably thought I was gonna look dumb there for a second. I can tell. You were looking at the numbers. You were thinking to yourself, man, they're really ramping up the amount of footage they're using. Christian might end up looking dumb here for a second. You were really thinking that, and then bam! First episode in the show's entire history to not use any footage whatsoever. Now look at yourself. We spend more time on the 2 kids and the racism than we do on actual fight scenes in this episode. In the penultimate episode, Hogday Afternoon, Aisha is teleported to Africa, where she immediately encounters a dangerous lion. Zed plans to get Hydrohog to Earth by sending a decoy signal to distract Zordon, and at the command center, the Rangers are admiring a machine Billy had made to harness the power of the Zeo crystals. Back in Africa, we're introduced to Tanya. Her parents were explorers who brought her to Africa and went missing during an expedition. She informs Aisha about the animals being sick and tells her that they need to get back to the camp before nightfall or else they'll be at risk of getting attacked. Zed successfully transmits a decoy signal, allowing Hydrohog to arrive on Earth, and the Aquitions sense a disturbance, quickly teleporting to the command center where they find Hydrohog on the viewing globe, prompting them to morph.
It's morphin' time!
Hydrohog begins to drain the water from the alien rangers' bodies and even swallows an entire lake. We cut back to Tanya suggesting Aisha speak with a wise woman named Ashala about her quest for the Zeo crystal, as she is the head of the camp and might know where to send her. Aisha asks if Ashala might know what's going on with the animals, and Tanya reminds her that literally no one knows, including the wildlife researchers.
I used to work in an animal shelter. I wonder if I could help.
This is the definition of American hubris. She was just told that zoologists, literal professionals with college degrees, aren't sure what's going on, but Aisha thinks because she picked up dog shit at the local pound, she might have an idea on how to help. Come on, man. Rito and Goldar finally arrive to the command center and start up the boom meter, and it begins to count down. Unfortunately, Rita tells them that they have to retrieve the Zeo crystal before it explodes. Alpha teleports the alien rangers to the local pool to hydrate and regain energy, but Hydrohog has already drained all of the water from it. And the sun is setting in Africa. Aisha and Tanya have yet to make it back to safety, and we're left on this cliffhanger. By the way, 6 seconds of Sentai footage in this episode. In the final episode, the news is reporting on the world water shortage due to Hydrohog's presence, and the children find water for the Aquitions to rehydrate, while Billy creates a machine to produce rainwater. Aisha and Tanya find Ashala.
I remember my mom telling me about my great aunt Ashala.
No shot. She tells them more about the animals and gives Aisha the Zeo subcrystal in hopes that she'll stay. Thankfully, Billy's machine works and it begins to rain in Angel Grove, giving the alien rangers just enough energy to morph and defeat Hydrohog using the Shogun Mega Falcon Zord and 2 minutes and 45 seconds of Sentai footage, meaning that the grand total amount of Kaku Ranger footage in Mighty Morphin Alien Rangers adds up to approximately 15 minutes in total. 15 minutes and 1 second if you want to be exact. Which is not as low as I was thinking, considering about 4 of the 10 episodes barely use Annie at all. But in terms of actual minutes of the show, that's less than 10% of the series. Back in Africa, Aisha and Tanya have come to a decision.
You are absolutely certain about this?
Yes, we are.
Aisha tells Zordon she plans to stay in Africa in hopes to help with the animals and sends Tanya back in her place.
We must all be strong and welcome Tanya with open arms.
Her decision to stay has altered her family's history, meaning that they will join her in Africa once Earth is set back to normal.
My instincts told me this would happen with one of you.
I love you, and being a part of you has meant everything to me.
I don't know how anything works anymore. The power coins are fucking gone, Billy's parents live with a grown man, and Aisha just decided to uproot her entire family over some zebras with a head cold. She hands Tanya the Zeo subcrystal, transferring it to her with a wave of yellow. Tanya arrives at the command center and hands it to Billy, allowing him to activate the machine. The ground begins to shake, and suddenly a child bulk and skull find themselves in their teenage bodies, feeling disoriented and confused as to what just happened. The day is saved and the Power Rangers are back to normal.
It worked!
Not gonna lie, this is kind of in character for Rocky. They look into the viewing globe and find that Aisha is fine and currently sharing a hug with Ashala. The Mighty Morphin team meets up with the Aquitions to say goodbye and thank them for saving the planet.
Till we meet again, Power Rangers of Earth.
Until we meet again, Rangers of Aquitar.
And they teleport away back to their home planet. Which is the end for the Alien Rangers in the show, but we still have some loose ends we need to tie up. Goldar and Rito break into the command center and steal the Zeo crystal. The Rangers arrive too late, and the explosive device begins to go off. It's a tense scene as Zordon and Alpha make the tough decision to teleport the Rangers out of the command center to save their lives. The teenagers look to the rubble lying where the command center once was, and all hope seems lost.
But this could be the end of the Power Rangers.
Thankfully, this is not the end of the Power Rangers, as it's only the beginning for Zeo Zed and Rita preemptively celebrate the end of the Power Rangers when their good time is interrupted by King Mondo and the Machine Empire, attempting to invade Earth and kick Rita and Zed out of their territory. The Rangers are investigating the rubble when suddenly,
Hey guys, what's that?
the explosion caused Rito and Goldar to lose their memories and drop the Zeo Crystal on their way out. It sends the Rangers to the tunnels underneath the command center as we see it begin to rebuild itself. As they explore these tunnels, they hear Alpha calling out to them, asking them to step into the vortex. Once they do so, they find themselves in the power chamber, with Zordon and Alpha inside. They inform the Rangers about the Machine Empire's invasion and how they plan to stop them without the power coins, thanks to the Zeo Crystal, which only has enough power for 5 Rangers. Billy has something he wants to say to the group.
Well, working with the Alien Rangers made me realize something. That having me here may be more important than me being a Power Ranger. Tanya, I'm giving my crystal to you.
The Rangers transform and thus unfold the events of Power Rangers Zeo. So the Alien Rangers show up 3 more times in the show's history. The first is a crossover where they fight alongside the Zeo Rangers in episodes 47 and 48 of Power Rangers Zeo, titled Rangers of Two Worlds, in which Billy finds himself rapidly aging due to the unforeseen effects of the machine he developed in Alien Rangers to turn himself from a child back to normal. The Aquitions are able to find a solution to this by using the water from the Eternal Falls on Aquitar. Unfortunately for the team, this means that Billy has to stay on Aquitar for treatment, where he finds a girlfriend. Yes, Billy canonically porks one of the fish people, and this marks his departure from the series. This is due to Billy's actor David Yost walking off set one day due to the constant bullying he received on set for identifying as gay, which is incredibly messed up and unfortunate. The showrunners figured they could just tap in an old man to play Billy for an episode or two to explain his absence, even though they have a video call with young Billy at the end, and there's just no way in hell that's him. Aurico also makes a reappearance in suit only during Forever Red, as David Bacon did not reprise his role for the special, though he is voiced by Christopher Glenn, who is that same actor who voiced Leo during that god-awful crossover between Lost Galaxy and Lightspeed Rescue. And finally, like every other team of Rangers, they return in suit only for the legendary battle. So, let's answer the question I posed at the beginning of this video. Why did they make Mighty Morphin Alien Rangers? Who is this for? As we've discovered, they used about 15 minutes of Sentai footage, which I would say is a good amount, but as I said, almost half of the episodes don't use any. If this really was an excuse to use Kaku Ranger footage, they did a god-awful job at doing so, especially considering the fact that Megazord battles don't need all of these American shots of the Alien Rangers flailing around like lunatics. And as we discussed, it wasn't to make more toys or sell VHS tapes. I genuinely think Alien Rangers was meant to tee up Zeo in more ways than one. The destruction of the power coins and the Zeo Quest in the series acts as the perfect opportunity to transition the Rangers from one power system to another, giving them new suits, weapons, and Zords. The plot of Rito and Goldar destroying the command center allowed for a new set design and for a fresh feel going into the new series. What this set of 10 episodes also did was allow the showrunners to start new storylines to be wrapped up in Zeo, such as Tommy exploring his Native American heritage, finding his brother with the other half of the arrowhead, and it gave Billy the much needed character development, making it clear for him that he's more of an asset to the team if he stopped being a Ranger and used his time to develop new technology. He is unarguably one of the best Blue Rangers of all time, and that's not even a question, but by the end of the show, it becomes so clear that he's better off doing this for the team. And I think it's no mistake that the only actor that returns for the Alien Rangers series is also the only actor that didn't become a Ranger in the next series. I'm going to leave you with some assumptions I have, but it would make sense that the showrunners wanted to take the time to write and develop plots for the 5 Zeo Rangers leading into the new series, while producing the less important Alien Ranger series in the background, working with the actors and giving them a much needed break in between production cycles before kicking off the new show. During this break and transition into what is technically a new TV series, there were probably some contract negotiations at play. At that time, David Yost was most likely considering leaving the show, meaning that he was the best candidate to be benched for this team, and his contract probably allowed him to leave the show whenever he wanted to, which is why he just walked off set one day. Again, this is just an assumption though. These contract negotiations are also what led to Aisha, or Karen Ashley, leaving the show and being replaced by Tanya, leading to an underwhelming send-off, but one that had to happen. I still do find it interesting that all of the normal actors and child actors are credited during the intro for Alien Rangers, but not the Alien Rangers themselves. I just wonder what happened there. Most likely something in the contracts of the original 6 actors, I guess. I don't really know. It's also cheaper on average to pay child actors, so it probably was more cost effective to have them headlining over the Aquitions. But overall, I can tell you why people forget about the Alien Rangers. And it's because they were never meant to be remembered in the first place. The show quite literally was meant to fill a gap in production and narrative. This team of Rangers is meant to be nothing more than stand-in suits so we can cut to fight scenes while we work things out with the other, more important actors and set up stories for the new, more important show. It's kind of messed up when you think about it. I really like the Alien Rangers, and I feel like they never got their fair shot. Boom Studios, if you're listening, I would love to write a 10-issue Alien Rangers miniseries. I will do it on the cheap, and I already have a pitch ready. But really think about it. This is the first new team of Rangers in the show's history, and no one cares about them or even bothers to remember their names, even though they arguably have just as much personality as the Zeo cast. This show is far more enjoyable than I remember people giving it credit for, and I really hope that you take a moment just to acknowledge the existence of the Alien Rangers next time you talk about Power Rangers in general with your friends. That's the video. Next time we do one of these long videos, I want to do something besides the Power Rangers. I do have other Power Rangers series I want to look at, but I don't want this to be another one of those channels that's obligated or required to look at every single series. There's other more great channels that already do all that, such as Connor the Waffle, for instance. Like I said, there are other long Power Ranger videos I want to make, so don't think that they're going anywhere. But the next time we do another long video like this, I want to talk about a different tokusatsu. So it's going to be... It's not going to be the Power Rangers. It'll not be the Power Rangers. I do want to talk about more Power Rangers in the future, but it'll not be the Power Rangers. It'll be not the Power Rangers. If you know, you know. Thank you so much to Rat Toku and Andrew B for subscribing to the Patreon.